again, the blocked field goal early.
Yep.
Just walk us through that play if you could on all that happened.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, which I always am, it was the first field goal block call of the game, and we didn't know exactly coming out of preseason exactly what their personnel would be and even exactly what techniques they'd be using on field goal protection. So it was really just a bread and butter call that was designed to give us information. And based on kind of what happened, it just happened to be the right call. So can't say anything more about just, it was the first call, and this is a call we like. Let's see what happens. And we thought if it works out how you hope it would, that's how it would happen. But can't go in saying I know this is exactly how this is going to happen and who their people are and how they're going to protect it. But Wanya, he lined up and he hit it. And we talked about the timing of field goal block. He went 2 steps, he hurdled, he went 2 steps, and he got his hand up. And he's got to do that in about 1.25 seconds. So it was pretty awesome. Great way to start.
Clarence for the Telegram. Brandon, I don't know, what happened on the opening extra point, and then just talk about how you rebounded.
Yeah, thanks for asking that. It's always something kind of new. I mean, he's an inexperienced kicker, which I love, by the way, but it was a sudden change. So it was a special teams touchdown, and the kickers usually aren't necessarily ready when the special teams on the field and the offense is going to take over, and an immediate touchdown. And so, we run onto the field, and he's got to be ready to kick it, and he gets lined up because in preseason they were changing the ball over fast. I mean, they were going from touchdown to start the 25-second clock, and so we were hustling to get lined up to kick a PAT. And it was just a little bit slower last night because maybe it was regular season, but he got lined up, and he was standing there for about 12 seconds before we were actually ready to snap the ball. So it was just a great learning curve for him, and even for me and for Brian, it's the timing of all this stuff. Not only the operation, but just the pace of when to start getting set up, and it's just a whole bunch of stuff. So we had 2 of them. Then we came back and hit a field goal. Then the very next PAT was another sudden change after the Deron Bland interception. So we had a chance to talk about it after the first one, about the timing of it, when to kind of get yourself lined up. And these are the things that we just haven't. You can't practice, and we never had them in the preseason games, like real sudden change and stuff like that. So. Really cool moments to learn from. Unfortunately, it cost us a PAT. However, we said it in the special teams meeting, the best thing that happened was that he missed a PAT, got it out of the way, and he came back and he hit 4 straight PATs, 2 field goals, and 8 touchbacks on kickoff. He is a weapon.
Let's talk about the environment. First game, you're on the road. He hadn't really kicked out in the crowd before.
Yep.
You got the weather.
Yeah.
You're having to deal with all of that
Yeah.
for the first-time kicker. Just how the experience of having to deal with all of that for the first time.
Yeah.
And coming away passing.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, I couldn't have hoped for, bring a little bit of rain, make it on the road, put the game at night, have a couple sudden change PATs. You got a lot of kicks in the net and a lot of kickoffs. I think it was a great start for not just a normal game. There was some cool stuff that he'll learn from, and he's a young guy that's got great talent, and I'm really glad we have him because I think he's going to keep getting better and better and better, and there will be a couple other situations that will come up that we'll have to work through, but, what I get to be a part of on the sideline is just witnessing a man's demeanor. This is a PAT, his first kick in the NFL, and he's as poised and as, and just okay as ever. No blinking, no ruffled feathers. He gets in the kickoff huddle, and he's back. So just great signs, in that first game of being able to rebound, but also make some good kicks.
Todd Archer with ESPN. Tolbert, I think it was the second half, runs down and makes that play on the punt team. Yep. Does he make that play a year ago, or did you even ask him to make that play a year ago?
Gosh, that's a great question. Last year, I think he got 2 gunner reps the whole season. He was just finding his way. And so last year, he probably doesn't make that tackle. This year, he was our starting gunner. We lost Kelvin, so we said, Noah can do it too, but we said, JT's been working really hard. And so we made him our starting gunner. And he started on all 4 phases and played every snap on special teams. Would he have made it last year? Probably not. But his confidence has grown, his work ethic is off the charts, his commitment to being a player on special teams has been outstanding. Very proud of him from where he started and where he's come to. And he never did it in college, so it's not like he was a disappointment at all last year. He just never done it. but just to see, you know, him progress to the point where he's basically our Noah Brown, if you will. You know, he's a 4-phase wide receiver that's contributed, you know, really quality reps yesterday, and he got a solo tackle out of it.
Saad Yusuf, The Athletic. Wanye mentioned yesterday that CJ told him in the walkthrough that this is going to happen, this is how they're going to line up, and I'm going to go wide, you got to hit it this way. Just having a guy like Goodwin in the locker room who has specialized in this his entire career, how important is it to the young guys to kind of see how much pride is taken in the special teams phase of the game?
Yeah, that's a great call. CJ's as good as I've ever been around. But we were in the ballroom. We had a Sunday morning. We had a special teams meeting at 10 a.m. till 10:25. It was just in the ballroom of the hotel. We didn't watch film. We just kind of walked through all 6 phases, and we finished with field goal block. And we just said, "Hey, this is going to be our first 2 calls." And then CJ kind of took it over and said, "You know, he knows the intent of the rush and who could potentially get through." And then just kind of witnessed that conversation where CJ kind of just took it over, talked to Wanye about this is what's going to happen, this is what I'm going to do, this is how you got to hit it, this is how many steps you got to take, this is how fast you got to get there. That was one of the last things we talked about, and sure enough, it happened, you know, in the first 5 minutes of the game, I think. So it's just a great ammunition for me to talk to our guys about, hey, all these ballroom walkthroughs and the Friday mock games, you know, we got to be pros and we got to be locked in and we got to be intentional about our conversations and our work and our technique because it all comes back to matter, you know, good or bad. And we get a chance to make a play and, you know, the guy made it, you know, and blocked it to a guy who just got here. Can't make it up.
Michael Gelkin, Dallas Morning News. It seems like Brandon Aubrey has had some developmental luck. I can explain where in the first preseason game he misses a PAT, then he gets another chance. The third preseason game, he misses a long field goal, and then he gets the exact kick again later, which is rare. And then for having to learn something about a sudden change situation and so quickly have a chance to again go out and show that he can learn from his mistakes. How important is that for his development to get a second chance so soon for him, but also for you as a coach to evaluate how he responds to situations in such short order?
Yeah, I kind of forgot about that, really. That's a good point you make, Michael. To be reloaded on the same exact situation, PAT in the first game, and then the 59-yarder, same hash, same distance against the Raiders, and then, you know, I think it was maybe within 5 minutes the sudden change, PAT, which you might get, you know, a couple of times a year, but not in the first game, in the first 6 minutes of the game. So, yeah, football gods have been good to him as far as getting reloaded chances, and he's capitalized on the reloaded chances, which is why he's our kicker. But I'm very optimistic about his continued ascension and hopefully being a Cowboy for a long time. I've been looking for a kicker that could be a long-term fit, and he's got to continue to prove it. But I think there's a lot of potential in him.
Right.
Thanks, Brad Sham, Cowboys Radio. Bones, in training camp, I think we only got one opportunity to talk to you on the podium, and you were asked about Thomas, and you clearly didn't want to talk about it. You lowered your head and just kind of smiled. So now that we're here and you have it, what did you know about him playing teams, and when do you think you started to know?
Training camp 2022. Yep, we just had a loaded safety room, and I didn't want to talk too much about him because about 17 consecutive weeks in 2022, I prayed that he would not get poached off our practice squad, and that's a fact. There was a couple opportunities. We were close to activating him, off the practice squad for a game or two. I was kind of hopeful, honestly, that we didn't, because then he goes back to practice squad and he'd get poached. And so that's honest fact. 2022 training camp, I was like, we got ourselves a guy, and with Dono and J.K. and Malik Hooker and there's it was a crowded room, so he just happened to be one of the guys that was just on the out. So that's why I was maybe a little bit sheepish to answer questions, because I didn't know where everything was going, and I didn't want to lose him for any reason, and I didn't need to build them up because I think we already knew what we had. But that's maybe to answer your question. I kind of recall, how do I answer this question before we've played a game, just to make sure we get him on the squad. But he's an outstanding football player, and there's a lot more to come from him for sure, too.
Bye. When it comes to JT as a gunner, he seems like just in general have a real mentality about him going into the second season where he feels like last year it's not a representation of him.
Yeah.
Did you feel that when kind of making your decision to entrust him at gunner?
Yeah, and a lot of it has to do with just his work and his toughness that he's shown over the last year. He's really in tune, man. It's been cool to see. He never did it in college, so last year, I think unfairly he was kind of cast as a disappointment. But he had a hamstring injury for a couple weeks of training camp, so he missed some time to develop a special teams role. And then it just took him a while just to kind of get game ready just through practice and watching CJ and going against him in practice. But his confidence is way better, and I think the best thing for JT to become the receiver that he's going to be is to just play special teams, run and tackle and get hit and block and not have to worry about assignment and being perfect with anything, just playing ball. And I think that's helped him and it'll continue to help him at receiver. It's just not worrying about being perfect, playing tough, mixing it up a little bit, and then hopefully just running a route across the middle and catching the football. It doesn't seem like is significant because he's just been banging. That's what special teams is for. I mean, you're running, you're hitting, and you're finding ways to win in a non-perfect world. So hopefully, we can keep it going.
Nick Harris, DallasCowboys.com. I got two for you. First, why do you love an inexperienced kicker?
Why do I love inexperienced kicker?
You had mentioned it earlier. You said you were back.
Yeah, I think it's really fun to be a part of somebody who's going to figure it out. Brandon's unique because he's inexperienced in a football, world, but anytime that something isn't exactly, he can give you feedback on what went wrong. Where some guys are like, I don't know what happened. I don't know why it went left. He knows exactly why it went right, why it went left, why it went too high, or and it's from a coach's perspective, you like to be a part of the development of certain players. To be maybe honest or selfish in that way. You like to get guys that come in like a Wanye or like Brandon, and they don't know anyway, so you get to kind of be a part of their development. And to see them develop into who you think they can be over the course of a lot of time is cool. That's probably why. Get a very unfinished product compared to a finished product and be able to work with them is kind of a coach's dream.
And then Noah Igbenogany coming in and just kind of having that refresh, restart, being able to be the one that runs it in. How cool is that from your perspective?
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, when he picked that up and ran on the sideline, like in my head, I'm running with him on our side. I'm like, I can't believe this is Noah. He just got here. But what a great way to kind of get him to feel like a part of the team. He scores the first touchdown of the Cowboy season, and the guys that are still kind of getting to know him get to put their arm around him and chest bump, whatever. And I'm glad it went to him, to be honest with you.
Todd.
Mike talks about the unscouted looks you see in the first month of the season. Is that even more pronounced for special teams? Because you guys are pulling in new guys every year.
Yeah, for sure.
How do you deal with that?
You stick to our bread and butter. Like I talked about the field goal block call. It's really hard on special teams to predict, a lineup, on all 4 or even 6 phases. Who's their punt team? Who's their field goal team? Who's their punt return team? In week 1, you kind of don't know not only who the players are, but exactly what they're going to do. We came out there on punt team, and, we got a very young punt team. Very young punt team. We got 3 rookies and 4 guys in their second year. And talk about unscouted looks, right off the bat in the A-gap, there's Thibodeau and Isaiah Simmons in the A-gap, and they go 3 wide, and they got 3 wide rushers, and all of a sudden I say, well, I didn't expect Thibodeau and Isaiah Simmons to be in the A-gap. But it's just bread and butter punt protection we worked on, so nothing was unusual. It's just, I'm kind of surprised to see those guys in there. So I think for us, what we did a good job of as a whole staff, and then we really focus on special teams is, let's pick what we want to get really good at and just work on our game, and it'll fit, with whatever we see or whoever we go against, and we're just going to keep rolling with that.
All righty. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thanks, you guys.